Am I the asshole for calling off my engagement after my fiancé kept saying I will give him a baby once we're married? Have you ever had a moment where the world shifts beneath your feet and suddenly everything you thought was certain turns into something unrecognizable? That moment hit me like a tidal wave, drowning the excitement I once had for my future. What should have been the happiest time of my life, planning my wedding, dreaming about a future with the man I loved, became a slow descent into unease, a nagging feeling I couldn't ignore. And then, with one final sentence, everything became clear. I, 25F, had been with my fiancée, 31M, for 2 years, and we had been engaged for 6 months. From the beginning, we had talked about our future together, including the possibility of having kids. We both agreed we wanted children at some point, but we never set a specific timeline. It was always this abstract, beautiful idea of raising a family together when the time felt right. At least that's what I thought. But as the wedding approached, something began to gnaw at me, a subtle but persistent unease. It started as a whisper in the back of my mind, growing louder with every offhand remark, every dismissive chuckle, every time I felt reduced to a role rather than a person. At first, I brushed it aside, convincing myself I was being overly sensitive. But deep down, I knew something was wrong, and then, like a slow building storm, it crashed over me all at once. Lately, his comments started changing. It wasn't just, when we have kids someday, or, I can't wait to raise a family with you. Instead, he started saying things like, once we're married, you'll give me a baby. The first time he said it, I let it go. Maybe he just phrased it weirdly, but then he said it again a few days later. This time, I responded with a lighthearted joke. So that's my job now? I was hoping he'd clarify, or at least joke back, but instead he just said, yeah, you're the one making it. A chill ran down my spine. Something about the way he said it sent alarm bells ringing in my head. I forced a smile, tried to laugh it off, but deep down, a knot had formed in my stomach. I decided to bring it up gently. I told him the way he was wording it made me uncomfortable, that it felt like he was seeing me less as an equal partner in the process and more as a vessel. He rolled his eyes and dismissed my concerns, waving me off like I was a child throwing a tantrum. You're reading too much into this, he said. You know I didn't mean it like that. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then he kept saying it. Each time it chipped away at my excitement, replacing it with something darker. It wasn't just the words. It was his attitude. He was so dismissive, so unwilling to acknowledge my feelings. It started to feel like he didn't see me as a person with my own agency, but rather as a means to an end. My heart felt heavier each time, my vision of our future growing dimmer. Then one night, he said it again. We were having dinner at home, talking about our wedding plans, when he casually dropped, once we're married, you'll give me a baby, and then everything will be perfect. I froze. My fork hovered midair, my appetite evaporating, the final straw. The words weren't just careless, they were a declaration of ownership. I set my fork down and took a deep breath before saying, I need you to stop saying that. It makes me uncomfortable. He laughed. Actually laughed. Then he said, it's not that deep, that's just how it works. You're the one who carries it, so you'll be giving it to me. Something inside me shattered. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't just poor phrasing. This was how he saw me. I wasn't his partner. I was his future wife, the mother of his children, the person who would give him what he wanted. It wasn't about us building a family together. It was about him getting what he expected out of marriage. I realized then that my dreams, my desires, my autonomy, they were nothing to him. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My mind was screaming at me to run, to get out before I was trapped in a life where my worth was reduced to my ability to bear children. I realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't marry someone who saw me this way, who disregarded my feelings so easily, who laughed when I expressed discomfort. So I called off the engagement. He was stunned. He couldn't believe I was throwing everything away over what he called a poor choice of words. He insisted I was overreacting, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. But it wasn't just the words. It was the way he refused to listen to me, to respect how I felt. Then his family got involved. His mother called me, her voice thick with disappointment, saying that I had misunderstood him and that he was just excited about starting a family with me. His sister sent me a long message, practically begging me to reconsider, saying that he had always wanted to be a father and that I was being unfair by punishing him for his enthusiasm. But I knew what I heard. I knew what I felt. And I knew I couldn't spend my life with someone who made me feel this way. Now, with some time and distance, I'm left wondering, Did I overreact? Was I too quick to call everything off? Or was I right to trust my instincts and walk away?